So many recipes to share. So many cooks in the kitchen with meals for you to prepare. We've got fruits and grains, veggies and beans, more healthy food than you've ever seen. So many cooks in the kitchen, plant-based meals to prepare. So many cooks in the kitchen with ideas we're happy to share.
Hello, my name is Dillard Barman in North Carolina. Welcome to the March show of So Many Cooks in the Kitchen. Today's show is about eggplant, and to use my time well, I'm actually going to start sauteing some onions. I've already chopped some onions. I'm going to put the onions in my pan with no oil, and I will talk about our show. So, I'm sauteing some onions on medium-high. So welcome to our Eggplant show. Those of you who are new, we are So Many Cooks in the Kitchen. We've been doing these shows since the beginning of the pandemic, near the beginning of the pandemic. So for people who've been watching all along, welcome back. And if you're new, we're so glad that you found us. Each one of us is a Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine Food for Life instructor. We teach healthy plant-based cooking, and we focus on classes that are fun, that show you great evidence about why eating this way is good for us and how easy it is to do. So a number of us are Food for Life, are cooks in the kitchen, and today the episode So Much Eggplant. Eggplant is a nightshade vegetable, and there are some people, there's a small percentage of people who are sensitive to nightshades. Nightshades have something called solanine, which may cause inflammation. So if you're one of those, the show is probably not for you. But for most people, eggplant is a very healthy choice. It's a great source of many vitamins. It's great with potassium and fiber. A little bit about the history of eggplant. Eggplant is originally from Asia, including India, where my ancestors are from. The onion is sizzling, it's smelling good. And there's a variety of eggplants. This is, I guess, the standard Italian eggplant that many people are familiar with. This one is actually a Chinese eggplant, which is used interchangeably with a Japanese eggplant. They're very similar. They tend to be milder in flavor, smaller. I like Japanese and Chinese eggplants because they cook faster. Sometimes I roast them. I cut them in half, put them face down with maybe some tamari or soy sauce or coconut aminos, and roast it in an oven, maybe 350 for 45 minutes. And then it just, the flesh comes right off of the skin, and it's very tasty. You can blend it with a sauce. You can make it into a dip. And then this is another kind of eggplant. There's also white eggplants. This one is, I can't remember if this is called a graffiti eggplant. There's a variety of eggplants, but they look different. They all taste fairly similar. So we're making, let me just check. I know Carolyn is making grilled eggplant with soba noodles and edamame. Susanna's making eggplant, I think an eggplant tapenade. Cody's making eggplant parmesan. And I think Shoba's making eggplant lasagna. So we have some good dishes for you. And I'm making an old standard of mine, which is a tofu eggplant saute. I've been cooking this for many years. I actually haven't cooked this particular dish for some years, but I used to cook it reasonably regularly before I was married. I used to offer this in a cooking class I did, an ethnic vegetarian cooking class. What I'm going to do is, while the onion is sauteing, I'm going to start roasting a bell pepper. You don't have to do this, but it adds some extra flavor. So let's go ahead and do that. And I love roasting peppers. All you have to do is you put the pepper on flame, which I'm doing right now. That's all you have to do. Now what I want to do is, the onion is starting to clarify. It's cooking. So I'm going to add now some shallots, which are a little bit more delicate in flavor. So I've chopped some shallots. If you've not cooked with shallots, I love shallots. What's in there is a red onion. Shallots are great. They're kind of a cross between onion and garlic. These are really good. And so I'm going to add, I slivered some shallots. I'm going to add them to the saute. I'll let it cook just a moment. And then I'm going to add my eggplant. What I did with the eggplant is I chopped it into, the recipe is available online, into reasonably small pieces. Think of it as mouthfeel, what you like in your mouth. There are people who salt eggplant. It reduces some of the bitterness. I generally don't do that. And in the old days when I used to use oil, one thing about this, if you are using oil, which we don't use oil, eggplant is like a sponge. It'll pick up the oil. So be careful. If you are still using oil, this is a dish that really sops up the oil. But I'm not using any oil at all, so I'm going to add the eggplant. Okay. And let's see how my pepper is doing. Okay, so the eggplant is slowly roasting. The roasted eggplant, when you roast vegetables, it brings the flavors to the forefront, and you get caramelization. You can see that the pepper is caramelizing, and you can see it's turning dark. This particular, I should have used a different burner, but it won't come out so well on the camera. It's okay if you don't fully roast your pepper. The best way to roast pepper is to keep doing this for about 5 minutes. I'm not going to spend that much time with it until the whole thing is more or less black. And then what you do is you put it in a brown paper bag and you scrunch up the brown paper bag so the smoky flavor really gets imbued in the flesh. And then what you do is you rinse it under cold running water, and the dark stuff will come out, and just chop it. I'm going to do a moderate roast. I'm not going to roast it as much as I normally would. Okay, so the eggplant is starting to cook down. In a minute or so, I'm going to add some, you can add some stewed tomatoes. I'm using diced tomatoes. These are really convenient. I have some fire roasted with no salt added, and I have some fire roasted with medium green chilies, which is what I'm going to be using. I already opened the can, so I'll be adding this. You don't want to add it too soon because you want the eggplant to cook. And you can see with no oil, the eggplant is cooking. I don't know if you can see that piece. That's lovely. It looks just great. It's brown with no oil. And I can smell now not just the onion and shallot, but I can smell the eggplant. I'm going to go ahead and add some garlic. I used 3 or 4 cloves of garlic. I'm going to add that. Now, I tend to be a lazy cook, and usually when I have onions and garlic, I add them at the same time. I could have done that, but I decided to put the garlic a little later. It'll change the flavor. If I cook garlic down more, it's more caramelized. If I add it a little bit later, it's a little bit more pungent. And so it's a matter of your preference. If you want, just add the onions and garlic at the beginning. But the downside of adding garlic too soon is sometimes it gets actually crispy, and I don't like crispy garlic in this particular dish. Okay? So this is looking pretty good, and my pepper is roasting very slowly because it's not the flame that I really would like. Oops. So I'm going to call it quits for the roasting in a second. You know what? I'm going to transfer the pepper. You won't be able to see it. It's probably off camera. But I've transferred it. You may have heard a clicking noise. That'll roast it nicely. Okay. I'm pretty happy the eggplant is starting to cook. You can see it's starting to brown a bit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add the tomato. And the tomato will also help with deglazing the pan. And I'm going to add the tofu. The tofu doesn't really need to be cooked the way I prepare it. I don't want the tofu to be crispy or anything, but the tofu just needs to really be warmed. Okay? And the dish is really coming together pretty fast, pretty easily. I'm going to start adding some spices. I'm also going to keep an eye on my pepper, which is off camera. It's roasting nicely. I'm going to start adding some spices. So one thing I'm going to add is fresh rosemary. So I'm just going to add a couple needles here and there. If you want to take a little extra time, go ahead and chop the needles in half, and you'll get more surface area and more flavor. But rosemary is so strong in flavor, we'll get plenty of flavor. So I'm not concerned about that. I like to be expedient in my cooking, and so this would do well. Rosemary is a Mediterranean herb, and it grows great with eggplant. Eggplant is a hardy vegetable. It also goes well with more hardy herbs like sage and thyme. I am going to use another herb. I'm going to use a little bit of oregano, some dried oregano. I'm going to put some oregano in. I think that the tomato probably already has oregano in it. It does not. And I'm going to take a look at my pepper. I'm going to call my pepper done. You can see it's partially roasted. Oh, it smells really nice. And I'm going to go ahead and let it sit for a minute to add to my sauté. So I've added some rosemary, I've added some oregano, and I'm looking as I mix it, and I feel I can add a little bit more rosemary. Use your judgment. If you like rosemary, you can add a bunch of it. Rosemary goes great with this dish. Okay. I'm also going to add a little bit of salt, but I'm going to wait on the salt because the salt can actually scrape pans, so I avoid that. I'm going to add a little garlic powder. I know there's fresh garlic in here, but I'm going to add some garlic powder too. And then I'm going to add some fresh ground black pepper, but you have a choice here. You know what goes great with this dish is hot sauce. I want to add hot sauce and crushed black pepper, so I'm just going to use the black pepper. So suit yourself. To put maybe half a teaspoon of it, something like that. And I'm not going to add as much as I normally would because I also want to add a little bit of lemon pepper. I like the flavor of lemon pepper, so let's put a little lemon pepper in. Crushed red pepper goes great with this too, but I don't generally use crushed red pepper and black pepper together. Smells good. I wish you guys were here, and I really like how the tomato is cleaning my pan. No oil and no cleanup. Very little cleanup. Okay. This is basically done. It's saying, please add some pepper, and I'll say, I'd be glad to add some pepper. So I have an organic yellow pepper. This really uses 1 can of the tomato, but if you really like tomato, use a second can. But I like it not so wet. So you can see I am distributing it so the tomato is all over the tofu. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to jump to the sink for a second. I'm going to rinse this and come back. I'm going to slit it over the sink to let the steam out. Okay. So I put this under running water and I gently caressed it, and some of the blacks, the roasted part came off. Usually I would do this, I would let it sit for like half an hour, and so it's much easier to handle the pepper. It's no longer hot. So I'd be a little bit careful. But when you do this at home, I recommend that you take your time, roast the pepper. The longer it sits in the brown paper bag, the more flavor it will have. But for expediency, because I want to move on to the next cook in the kitchen, I'm going to chop the pepper. And roasted pepper has a nice texture. It's nice and soft. So here comes the pepper. You can use, I could have used green pepper. Usually green bell pepper is cheaper, but I like the color. So I like the yellow because it contrasts. When I was shopping, all the peppers were reasonably small, but I found one yellow one that I really liked, the one that you're seeing here. I almost bought an orange one, but I was really thinking about color, and I really like the more contrast you get with yellow versus orange. Okay. So there goes the pepper. The pepper adds just an extra little punch to the dish. If you really enjoy heat, you can use a little bit of jalapeno. You know what goes well with this is Anaheim peppers, which don't have much heat, but they add a nice, unique flavor. Okay, so here's the rest of the pepper. Oh, that's looking really good. Wow. So the pepper, I do recommend the pepper, not just for the flavor and the nutrition, but also for the looks. This dish was looking good, but now I think it's looking really good. So what I'm going to do next is just quickly rinse my hands. Is I'm going to I tend to be light on the salt, and I prefer people salt at the table. I don't like a lot of salt, but this dish calls, when you have an acid like tomato, it really, for me, calls for a little bit of salt. So I'm going to add just a little bit. Okay. And I will call that done. So I'm going to turn the heat off. I'm going to mix this in. And I'm going to serve. It's an easy dish. This is an eggplant tomato saute, eggplant tofu saute, sorry, and I bet it's really good. I'm going to give it a try. I see the eggplant is nice and soft. It's cooked without oil. The tofu looks nice and warm. The spices are, the herbs are distributed. Let's give it a try. It's going to be quite hot. Really good. Some of you may be on a no-salt diet. That's fine. But if you're eating salt, salt really brings out the flavors. I would actually add just a tiny bit more. It's quite good. Try it at home. It's a delicious dish. It's a healthy dish. I think you will enjoy it. Next, we move to Janin, or Hun. Janin is making a roasted eggplant soup. Take it away, Janin.
Thank you, Dilek, for the introduction. Welcome, everybody, to my kitchen in Abu Dhabi. We're working with eggplants today, and there are a million things you can do with it. I'm originally from Turkey, and in my country, we do hundreds of recipes with eggplants, including eggplant jam, pickled eggplants, roasted eggplants, you name it. And of course, the dishes that you are familiar with, such as baba ganoush and mutabal, are also present in my country. And we have a fantastic eggplant dish, which is like a mutabal, but with a little bit of a roux in it to make it like mashed potatoes, and we serve it warm, like serve it with a stew over it or something like that. And it's one of my favorites. Well, but today I'm not doing that. I'm sort of doing an alteration on our favorite mutabal. This is a roasted eggplant soup. It's sort of a marriage of mutabal and hummus. And here we go. I have already roasted my eggplant. This time I chose to do it in the air fryer just to see how it might work. It worked. It took me nearly 1 hour. It was pretty much the same amount it would take in the conventional oven behind me. So this eggplant was about this size before cooking. It's now completely gnarly looking and very smushy, and that's what we want. You can also, of course, do it on a barbecue grill, which gives it even more the grill smoky taste and flavor. So it was like this. It was about a pound. So, but the recipe is in the recipe booklet as always, so no need to take notes. I have all these little ones for show and tell. Maybe I don't know if you can see them well. In Abu Dhabi, we get tiny eggplants as well, white ones, striated ones, and the white ones, they're nice and little and long, and we get them also in a lavender color. It's so much fun shopping for eggplants in Abu Dhabi. But today I'm using a more traditional size eggplant. So here we go. I have my eggplant. I do a little bit of surgery on it now. I cut it up. It's cool, so I can handle it, but be careful if you're just taking it out of the oven. So you basically make a slice, an incision down the middle, and you gently pry the eggplant off the skin. I can cut it like that, and it's all here. I'm gonna slowly transfer it into my high-speed blender. If it has too many seeds, you can take them out, but I'm not gonna bother with it. It would be more elegant and less brown if you did, but I'm putting them all in. I might as well get all the benefits of the eggplant that I can. The high-speed blender will just smoosh it to death. Ta-da! And here's almost the last of it. So that's my eggplant. Leave it here. And as I was roasting the eggplant, I roasted my garlic, which is also fantastic. I'm just gonna squish it all. I used a lot of garlic, but it's roasted and slightly mellowed in flavor, so it wouldn't be overwhelming. So here's all the roasted garlic. It was a small head of garlic. Of course, you can adjust and use less or more, up to you. So the garlic goes in there, and lemon juice. I should have done it a little earlier to keep the color lighter. I'm gonna put, yeah, the lemon juice keeps the eggplant from oxidizing and changing its color. So here it is. It's already doing a little bit of magic on it. I'm putting my hand under it. This is my way to catch the seeds, the pips. So here it is. Half is in there. Half the lemon is in there, the juice. I'm gonna later test it and see if I want more. I have tahini, so I'm gonna put like a tablespoon of tahini in it. You can also, again, put less or more or none, depending on your flavor preferences. I just think it adds a little bit of oomph. And I have a cup of cannellini beans. So this is, I said hummus before, but I'm using cannellini beans just for a change. You could use chickpeas. You could use any other color beans. Of course, remember the color of the soup will be different with the different kinds of beans you use. But the more colorful, the more antioxidants. So today I'm using cannellini beans because that's what I had readily available at home. So here it is. Also on standby, I have a little bit of water. I'm gonna add about a half a cup now, and just a tiny pinch of salt, pepper, a pinch of nutmeg, because nutmeg is just wonderful. And if you want more smoky flavor, you can use just a sprinkle of smoky paprika. Those are all the ingredients we have. I will put it on my blender. See if this goes. Basically, that's the soup, folks. Now let's see how the consistency is, if it needs a little bit more of liquids or not. I'm going to, it's very thick, so it could, what a nice flavor. The lemon is perfect. Tahini is perfect. It's earthy. You can taste the roasted eggplant, the little bit of garlic, but I'm just going to add a tiny bit more of water and give it another whiz so that it thins out a little. And then it will be ready to dish. Okay, it's all mixed. And here we are. I have a spatula handy or later. So I'm gonna pour it into my, you see how thick it is? You can of course thin it as much as you want. Yummy. So, my nice spoon. I have some parsley here. You can add chopped parsley. You can put some parsley for decoration, but also the flavor would be good in it if you chopped and mixed it in. I love Nigella seeds. Nigella seeds love me back, so I'm decorating it with it. Plus, I love the flavor, so so this is my soup. It looks lovely. It tastes lovely. I'm gonna give it another taste test. It's really a fun, different way of using eggplants. You can surprise your guests. It could be milder in taste if you use a plant-based milk instead of the water I use. Experiment with it. It would be lovely with a dollop of cashew cream on it, cashew sour cream. So have fun, enjoy it. And if you make it thick, 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 you can also use a dip.
Hi everyone, I'm Susanna Dickman from Evansville, Indiana. You can follow me on Eat Plants Be Well on my website or on Facebook. Today I'm going to make an easy recipe. This recipe comes from Kathy Hester. If you haven't checked her out, I would. She makes delicious recipes. And this is one of my favorite ways to use eggplant. When we get eggplant from our farm share, I know this is one recipe I'm going to make with some of it. And I can't wait to see the rest of the recipes everyone's making today, because I know I'm going to be making those too when I start getting my eggplant. What I like about this recipe, well, there are two things. The flavor. The second thing is the ease of it, because you can see I have my little crock pot here, and all I'm going to do is dump all the ingredients in here and let it cook on low for 7 to 9 hours or on high for 4 to maybe 5 hours or 6. So I've already added some of the ingredients in there, but you can see on my cutting board I have some black olives. You can add black or green olives. I have my eggplant just kind of cubed. I also have some raw garlic, and I have some capers. So let me go ahead and add those in without spilling too much. Let's see. I'm getting a little bit on the floor, but that's okay. I think my little dog does like eggplant, which is very unusual, but he will enjoy that. So I've got eggplant in here, black olives, garlic, and some capers. And now I'm going to add a can of diced tomatoes. I'm going to just use their juices. In the summer when we have fresh tomatoes, I will add those because, you know, fresh tomatoes are just so much better. I'm going to mix this up a little bit, and then I'm going to add our spices. So I'm going to add I start usually with 1 teaspoon of basil, and this is a half teaspoon, so that's why I'm putting in 2. I'm going to actually do 1.5. So you can put up to 2 teaspoons. So I'll taste it after it's done, and if I feel it needs a little more basil, I might even add some fresh basil at that point. And then I'm going to put some balsamic vinegar, and there I'm going to put 4 half teaspoons, so 2 teaspoons, 3 and 4. All right, that's it. So we have eggplant, olives, capers, garlic, tomatoes, and then our basil and our balsamic vinegar. You don't need any water because, of course, the eggplant is going to release some water, and it will just be fine. There's a little bit of the juice from the tomatoes. That will be fine, but let me go ahead. I'm going to tilt this and show you how it looks when it's not cooked. And then here is the finished product. You can see it's turned a little bit darker due to the balsamic vinegar and the olives. And so, you know, what do we do with this tapenade? As I said, put it over some crusty bread for an hors d'oeuvre. Put it over pasta, over salad, even in soup. I make a taco soup that's blended, and my husband loves adding this. It just adds another umami flavor. It's such a great dish, and it's easy. I'm going to put my lid on. Oops, there was an olive that got away. And like I said, I'm going to keep it in my slow cooker. You can do it overnight, 7 to 9 hours on low. During the day, if I'm home, I will put it on high for about 4 to 5 hours. And just when the eggplant is tender and, you know, the garlic and everything, it's just so, so, so good. People will think that you've been cooking for hours and all you've done is throw it in the crock pot. So thanks for watching, and thank you for spending your Saturday with us. Cody, you're next, and I can't wait to see what you're making. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Hi, Susanna. It's great to see you again. Welcome, everybody, to my home in Omaha, Nebraska. I am Cody Stubbe, and today I'm going to make an eggplant parmesan recipe. So to start out with eggplant parmesan recipe, of course, you need your eggplant. You just go ahead and you take one, you wash it up, and then you're going to slice it into about 1/2 inch thick pieces. And you want them pretty similar to each other in thickness, so then that way they will cook evenly. And that way you don't have any pieces that are too thick and some that are too crispy and such. So, all right, so you got your eggplant cut up here. And then we're going to make the dipping for it. So I kind of make a little bit of like the coating on it. You're just going to mix up your panko crumbs. These actually already have some Italian seasoning in there, but I like lots of seasoning, so I'm going to add more of that. A little bit of pepper and some garlic powder. And if you're not doing salt-free, I'd suggest putting maybe like a maybe 1/4 to a half a teaspoon of salt in there. And then I got some nutritional yeast. And then you just gotta mix it all up together. This is a fun job if you have a little one in your house. My kids all have activities going on today, otherwise I'd have them join me. So you got all nice and mixed up. You can see those beautiful green seasonings in there. All right, now we got to make the batter part. So you're going to take some plant-based milk and whatever kind of flour that you use in your family. You can do whole wheat, you can do gluten-free flour, and you're just going to dump that in there and just whisk it up till you kind of get those chunks out. It's not too bad. Just like so. Get the edges good. It's another fun job for kids. All right. Okay. I'm going to get my pan. It's a little warm because I used it earlier. So you can take any kind of like baking pan, and I like this one to line it with a piece of tin foil. Or if you don't have tin foil, you can do a little piece of parchment paper in the bottom of it. And then this has like a little grate that goes on top. It works real nicely. This is where I'm going to lay my pieces after they've been battered and dipped into the breadcrumbs. All right, so you just take one, and I kind of just line up a little assembly station here. Just kind of get it all in order. So you're going to go and take a piece of eggplant. You're going to dip it into the batter. Now, it's best to use kind of like one hand for this part because one hand's going to get really messy. And then you're going to dip it in here, your batter. Just kind of coat it with a thin coating real evenly, kind of shake off the extra stuff there. And then you're just going to dip it into the breadcrumbs and get it all nice. It looks really good. So you got it all nice and coated, and then you're just going to lay it on your pan. And if you miss up a little bit, just squish it back down. It's totally okay. So you're going to do that with all your pieces here. Doesn't really take very long, and it's pretty fun, and it's a healthy way to eat something that's crispy when you can air fry it if you can. You just keep going. And I also have available some cooked pasta, and I just quickly boiled up, and this is a gluten-free pasta. You can do whatever kind of pasta you eat in your household. Whole grain pasta's the healthiest for you. Of course, unless you need to do gluten-free, then that's what's healthiest for you. I also have some red sauce or marinara sauce available because we'll show you what this looks like all put together. All right, now if you run out of batter, it's pretty easy just to mix up another batch of it. So just keep that in mind when you're making this. If you have a big eggplant, you're probably gonna need a little more batter, maybe even some more breadcrumbs. So it's probably a great idea to have some extra on hand when you're making this recipe, just in case, okay? And let me tell you, your family's gonna eat this up. I haven't made this for a while, but oh my gosh, it's so good. I gave my husband a piece of the sample ones, the ones that I already just did, and he liked it. He said really good. So, and that was just plain. That wasn't even on the pasta with the marinara sauce and all that. So it was just plain. So it was really good. It's crispy on the outside and juicy tender on the inside. All right, I'm gonna do one more here. See how my fingers are just really getting it all over. So if you have a kid that likes to get messy, this is a good one for him or her. My kids really don't like to get too messy, which is kind of funny. All right, so there you go. All right, so I'm going to put this in my air fryer, and I'm going to have it preheated at 400, and then you're going to cook these for about 18 minutes. Now you do want to check them probably about 18 minutes. Keep an eye on them. Pull a piece out and cut through it and see if it's done to your liking. You may need to go a little bit longer than that, but just keep an eye on it. So I'm going there. And then I have some already done. Let me just wipe off my fingers here. Good. They're kind of messy. All right. It's good enough. All right. So let me show you the done ones. Maybe I can get them out. Let's wait. It's cooled down a little bit. Okay. So here they are. All right. Here we go. And see how they're nice and crispy on the outside. And they're going to be tender on the inside. I'll show you here in just a second. I just want to plate this so you can see what it looks like. Get my thing. All right. Hopefully my pasta's still warm. All right. Then you got some marinara sauce here. Yummy, yummy. Looks good. And then you can take your piece, and you take a couple pieces if you want, and just kind of lay them out there. 3 is probably a good number. Depends how much your family's hungry, how much they love this. And then you can sprinkle some freshly chopped basil on top. And there you go. Easy peasy and so good and nutritious. Eggplant's very healthy for you. This is whole food, plant-based nutrition right here, you guys. So give this a try. Tell me what you think. And remember, recipes are a guide. So if you want more or less of any of the ingredients, you just add it yourself. It's no problem. All right. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you later. Thank you for watching. I hope you give this recipe a try. And now I'm going to hand it over to Shobha, who's going to make an eggplant lasagna, which sounds incredible. I have never made that before, but I've always wanted to. So I'm excited to see her recipe. All right, I'm going to send it on over. Bye, everybody.
Hello, namaste. I'm Shobha Swami and I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome to So Many Cooks in the Kitchen from Atlanta. You watch Cody's Eggplant Parmesan. I can't wait to make it. I'm sure you're going to make it often as well. This is a healthy version of Eggplant Parmesan. But today I'm going to make eggplant lasagna. So let's get started. We are going to have a drained block of tofu, which I already have. And I've put a few spices into the food processor already. So put that block of tofu with the water drained fully. Then to make it creamy, I'm going to have a 1/4 cup of cashew butter. Cashew butter is kind of more neutral, so that's why we like cashew butter in this. Or if you don't have cashew butter, you can even use sunflower seed butter or even tahini if you have that, the sesame seed butter. And I'm going to put a whole bunch of spices in here. I'll begin with 1 tablespoon of miso, and then I'm putting 1/4 cup of nutritional yeast. We like it spicy in our house, so I'm going to add about a teaspoon of red pepper flakes, and then 1 tablespoon of roasted garlic I'm adding to this, and chia seeds. 1 tablespoon of chia seeds will add like a nice crunch and a thickening factor to everything, to this tofu ricotta, and salt, of course. So we add all of these things into the food processor, and I have a whole bunch of greens, as you may see. These are all from my hydroponic garden that I grow here. There's lots of basil in this, some amount of kale, and all kinds of things. But I'm going to add all of this into the food processor and get it going. Let me see where I put the cover here. That's it. So let's blend this all together to make an amazing tofu ricotta. All the flavors are smelling so good here. So maybe stop and blend it down a little bit, break up all these greens just a bit. They're all sitting in a clump. So it should work better now. Yeah, there you go. So basil really, yeah, almost there. Yeah. So this has gotten to be a nice smooth ricotta. It's I just mix it up nicely and make sure all the flavors have come together with all of the miso as well as the nut butter that we've added and all the other spices. Feel free to add any other spice of your liking. When we customize our recipes, that's when they taste the best. Now that I have the tofu ricotta ready, let me move this out of the way and we can now start assembling the lasagna. Let's move all this out of the way. This, all of this. So let's get started. You need only now these three things. The tofu ricotta is ready, eggplants are sliced and ready to go, and then marinara sauce. I got this really amazing spicy arrabbiata sauce because we like things spicy in our home. So with that, let me show you how to get started on this. Add a layer of tomato sauce at the bottom so that it doesn't stick to the pan, and just spread it out nicely. All you have to do is, I bought store-bought tomato sauce, and try and buy either the Engine 2 brand's tomato sauce, which is oil-free, or I think Trader Joe's has a fat-free version which is oil-free. And again, remember, you can flavor this the way you want. You can add Italian spices, paprika, red pepper flakes, any of these things. In ours, you know, we really like red pepper flakes, so I'm going to add a tad of that. Didn't keep it handy. So every layer, I'm just going to add just a hint, maybe, you know, 1/8 teaspoon. So we'll get started. I'm adding the big slices of, I'll add 1 slice of the big slices at the bottom. There you go. I took a large enough pan and I've used 2 eggplants, as you know. Cut it up and got it ready. And so every layer, we add a little bit of tomato sauce and a little bit of ricotta, tofu ricotta. And then go on stacking it this way. And it will come out really, really good. You don't have to, it's creamy and nice. So spread this out nicely, this ricotta mixture. Then we put a little bit here. Stack it up and, you know, spread it nicely for each of these. Yeah, generously. Put a generous heaping teaspoon. And you go on stacking like this till everything is ready. And the next layer is tomato sauce again. And keep doing this till we have the whole, everything stacked up. 4 layers is what I'm going to put. As you can see, take this. Add a little bit of tomato sauce, add a little bit of tomato sauce, little tomato on each one of these. And yeah, when you add the tomato sauce, makes it a little bit easier to spread also the tofu mixture, since it's, you know, so thick. There you go. So now I add another layer of, these are really small, so let me see. Yeah, here's a big one. So stack them per their size, you know. Here, this one is a good one, and stack them as big, the big ones at the bottom, and then as we go on top, we can just stack them. Yeah, this is perfect. Yeah. So do the same thing again. Take a little bit of this ricotta, maybe what I'm going to do is put a dollop of ricotta and a dollop of tomato sauce so it, blends really well. And what you can do is even just put the two together even and blend it, but then it won't look as pretty and as nice. So put a dollop of this, put a dollop of this, dollop of this, put a dollop of this. Yeah. So this, you can see, is so easy to put together. You can involve your kids. And if you haven't tried eggplant, this is a really good easy stackable version of eggplant with very few ingredients. It's not that many. And we are sharing the recipe today with you. So make sure you make it, get the kids involved, and it's an amazing one to make. And if you need to adjust for oil, salt or any other spices, feel free to do that. It always comes out the best when you customize the flavors. It makes it delicious. So eating healthy, as you all know, is not just for heart health and disease prevention. But now I'm going to stack one more. Stack, 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 stack. So now I've already gotten 3 down. And to be honest, I don't know how much more sauce the tofu ricotta I'll have left. I'm sure it's going to be so flavorful because I put in so much basil into it, There, about 1 teaspoon, I think, 1 tablespoon, I think, is what I'm putting. And then put a little bit of this so it makes it easy to spread. Dollop, a dollop, a dollop, and a dollop. Basically, you stack it up like this, you get the point. And then what you do is bake it at 350 for about 45 minutes. And it's all ready to eat. Cover it with either aluminum foil or any other choice of, what you use typically to cover these dishes as they go into the oven. That way it retains the moisture and it cooks really well. Yeah, maybe these two together will work really well. So you can see how flavorful this is going to turn out in terms of, and if there's any extra leftover, you can always, so we're putting one more, right? All the bigger slices I'm going to take. And what I plan to do with these little slices, I'll show you. Wait, sorry. This goes better here. And this may go better here. Yeah. So these slices that are left over, what you can do if you run out of ricotta, chop them fine and put it in the tomato sauce. Because once you do that, you don't have to waste anything and you don't have to think of one more dish or item to make with the leftovers. Get it? So it's just so much more easier to do that. So I have a big piece of kale or whatever I put in, but I'm just going to leave it there so we can always cut it and eat it when it gets cooked. That's the plan. So make sure everything is blended well. What I can do, what I'm thinking as I'm going along loudly, is the fact that I'm going to chop up all of these. So if you have a cutting board, Blanca, can you just help me chop up these eggplants? We'll just put it on the side. There you go. Yeah. Just chop up these. Let me give it to you. Yeah. Chop into cubes. That's good enough. Yeah, there. So once they're chopped up into cubes, look how beautiful they look. And it's really worth taking a picture. And very easy to put together. Try it at home. And just make it small squares, small cubes. Yeah, something like that. That's perfect. What we'll do is all the leftover cubes that we have of the eggplant, we'll just put it around the edges so those cook too in the tomato sauce. and it'll be delicious. That way, you know, you don't have leftovers and you don't have to worry about, oh, what am I going to make next with those leftovers. So even with the tofu ricotta that's left over, I'm going to make a nice sauce out of it and put it on the side to blend, so top it off way on the top layer with a little more tomato sauce so it doesn't dry out. And there you go. There you go. This is it. It's a stackable lasagna, and I can put a little more pepper flakes on top because my husband really loves spicy food, and you can try too. I'm going to put a few more pepper flakes on the side when that eggplant comes, and adjust all the seasonings. If you like more garlic, if you like onions, you can stack up onions in between. If you like zucchini, you can stack up zucchini in between. The choices are really endless. So here, let me show you what I'm going to do with the rest of the eggplant that I really don't want to waste. So I'm going to put some here like this, just so that it'll make a nice, it'll be marinated in this tomato sauce, and it'll make for a really nice extra sauce. And I'm going to put all the extra sauce on top so that the eggplant doesn't dry out. That's it. I'm putting all the eggplant pieces neatly stacked all around, and you know, just customize. We only give you a recipe as a guide. What you make with it is, you know, left to your imagination. So experiment, eat new vegetables. If you haven't eaten eggplant lately, try it out. I think I'm going to put all this basil that's left over, the tofu ricotta that's left over, that is flavored with basil. I'm going to add it first. I'm just going to add it in dollops, because with all the cashew butter and everything, once it starts baking and the tomato sauce starts boiling, it will really, all the flavors will come together so well. So once I'm done with this, I'll clean up all my tofu ricotta that's here and put it in the oven to bake. Just watch me as I do that. So here's a dollop, here's a bigger dollop to offer all these. Here there's a lot of more room in this corner, so I'm going to use up all this ricotta. So wipe my food processor clean and spread it all out, and use as much basil as you can, fresh basil or even dried basil. And next thing you can do is add all the tomato sauce as well that's left over, and clean out the blades and clean it really well, and add all of this. Add the tomato sauce, and then it'll be time to bake. Now I'll show you how it is. I won't take all your time to show you all of that as I clean out my dish. So top off with the rest of the tomato sauce. You notice with 2 eggplants, 1 marinara sauce, how wonderfully we put this together with so few ingredients. So now we have the oven all ready to go, and we are just going to bake it. So here's the stackable lasagna, eggplant lasagna. Let me put it in the oven. Here's how we go. We have the small air fryer cum oven, and it will work really well in there. What I'm going to do is cook it for a bit, and then maybe, you know, it'll compress, and then we'll be able to cover it. But it looks really pretty, and we'll come back and see. Let me get the one that's cooked, and let me grab that, and then we can do some taste test. Okay? Let's take a look. I have one already made and ready to go. Let's see how it has turned out. And I'm going to take out the stack of eggplant. The only difference that I did was put all the leftover eggplant pieces all around. So I'm cutting all around this to pick this off of here. Awesome. Here, let's take a look and see how it has come out. And let's take a bite and make sure that it's cooked all the way. and it's a stack of 3 eggplants. And this is the easiest eggplant parmesan that I have eaten and I have made. So let's take a look at how it turns out. Yes, let's take a bite. Amazingly flavorful. You will never know that it doesn't have cheese, dairy cheese in it. This tofu ricotta that we've used has turned out just superb and is cooked really well. Make this at home and try it, and it's very, very creamy and flavorful. Thank you very much. Here's eggplant lasagna for you, and over to Carolyn, where she's going to be making eggplant with soba noodles and edamame. Welcome, Carolyn.
Thank you, Shobha. That looks really good. I love a good lasagna. I don't think I've ever put eggplant in lasagna before, so that sounds really, really good. I'm gonna have to give that a try. And I think I noticed some people in the chat on Facebook also saying they've never put eggplant in lasagna before. So sounds like something to try, right? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get my pan heating up. All right, so I'm going a little bit different direction. I think the past few recipes have been kind of Italian flavored. So I'm going with an Asian recipe that has soba noodles. So I'm using this kind. It's an 8-ounce bag and it calls for 1 8-ounce bag. And these are organic. So buckwheat is what soba noodles are made out of. So this one is actually made with rice flour and buckwheat flour. So it is totally gluten-free if that's something that's important to you. There are other soba noodles that actually have wheat flour and buckwheat flour. It's hard to find 100% buckwheat flour, at least where I live. I have a very hard time finding it, but this is pretty close. So really, really tasty. And I've already cooked it along with some edamame. So I cooked it at the exact same time, actually, and it came out just perfect. So I can show you that with my down shot really fast. All right. So on the down shot, you can see I went ahead and cooked the soba noodles and the edamame all at the same time, and then rinsed it under cold water to stop the cooking. So we'll set that aside. But all right, so I know nobody wanted to watch me cook noodles for 5 to 6 minutes. So I have an empty glass jar. I'm going to make the sauce that is the marinade for the eggplant. And I'm using this kind of eggplant, which if you are looking for seeds and you want to grow it yourself, it's a great thing to grow in the summertime. It's totally a summer vegetable. I was lucky enough to find these at our local international market. So they had them. They're imported from, I think, Mexico. I can't remember, but they'll be growing in my backyard this summer. These are Ichiban. So if you're trying to find seeds for it, it would probably be under Ichiban eggplant or Japanese eggplant. And the reason I like these so much is they're really, really tender on the inside and they have much smaller seeds, which I really like. So let me turn my heat down. All right, so let's make the marinade first. So we have some rice wine vinegar, which is 1/2 cup, and it's seasoned rice wine vinegar. This kind is what I'm using. And then we have 1/4 cup of water and 1/4 cup of low sodium tamari or soy sauce or aminos, liquid aminos. So whichever one you want to use. I'm using this low sodium organic tamari, but you can use any of those you prefer. It's 1/4 cup of, you could use, 1 tablespoon of toasted sesame oil, or if you are oil-free, leave it out, and that is perfectly fine. You do not have to use it. 1 tablespoon of agave nectar, and I'm using organic agave, and then 2 or 3, so 2 large or 3 small cloves of garlic minced up. So we'll add all of that. Okay, there we go.
Get that all in the jar. I like using jars because that way I can just put a lid on it and shake it up and it's totally ready inside the jar. All right, very simple. And then we're going to set that aside for a second and cut up. Let me get this out really fast. So I have a glass baking dish. I'm going to go ahead and pour the marinade into the baking dish. Okay, because that way we can just add the eggplant, cut up eggplant right into it. Move a few things over here so I can cut up my eggplant. And I'm going to put the down shot on so you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, so I'm going to cut off the stem part of the eggplant and set that aside. And then cut the whole eggplant in half. And then in half again, so it's in fourths, like that. And then cut straight down. And then turn it the other direction, cut straight down. So that way it comes out in 4 pieces. Okay. And then we'll just put that in the marinade. Okay. Turn and show that in just a second. We're going to get the rest of this cut up. Let's see. Probably tilt the camera a little more that way. There we go. So you can see it going into the marinade too. There. Just putting it cut side down. And you want that to marinate for at least 30 minutes. Could be longer. That's up to you. But I already have a whole pan marinating. So we're going to get that out. Pop these in here. And then move them over to the side. Because I already have a whole pan marinated. So very yummy. And then we'll turn it back over here to the grill pan. So I have a pan that's going to give it these nice grill marks that we want. So we'll go ahead and it's heating already. Set that right there on the grill pan. So you could also do this outside on a grill. You don't have to have a grill pan. You could probably just do this in a regular frying pan as well. Okay. Oh, it smells so good. Oh, my goodness. It smells amazing. Get it all on here. Hopefully it all fits. Just about slide them down, make more room. It's probably time to start turning them. Oh yeah, they're getting done. Look at that. Okay. Get my tongs, start turning them. Look at that. Beautiful. So you know when you grill chicken or beef and it gets these marks on it, that's a bad thing because at that point it's creating a carcinogen known as heterocyclic amines. But when you cook vegetables and they get these char marks, that doesn't happen. So it's perfectly fine for vegetables to get these beautiful charred marks on them. Not so good when it's animal muscle. So we're trying to avoid that. This is perfect. They look so good. Yum, yum, yum. Okay. Wow. Those look so good. And it's so fast. Once the grill pan is preheated, they just get cooked through really quickly. Especially when they're cut into sticks like this, they just cook very quickly. All right. Look how yummy. Oh, so good. All right, and the really good part about cooking this way, oh, I left one behind. Oh no, no eggplant left behind. We have to put it in there. Okay. So the great part about cooking this way is you can use the marinade again. So you can't do that if you're cooking with chicken or something and you're marinating it. You just can't reuse that marinade. This you can, because then it's going to become the sauce over our dish. So that's just about ready. So I'm going to take some of the noodles and edamame and go ahead and scoop it into a serving bowl. There we go. Get more of those edamame in there. Whoops. There we go. Okay. And then once the eggplant is getting all the way to, it's really very nicely done, I think. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that looks great. Okay. So I'm going to pull some out. There we go. And I'm going to show you on the down shot again so you can see how pretty this is. Move my marinade out of the way. Look at that. All right, we could probably throw a few more on. So just go ahead and put it into a serving bowl. Look how gorgeous. And then we'll scoop out some of the marinade and drizzle it over the top. There we go. Yum. That is so delicious. And then you could top it with some toasted sesame seeds or maybe some diced up green onion. That would be really good on it too. Yeah, it's just delicious like this. If you want to, you could throw in some other vegetables, maybe some broccoli or some tofu pieces or green beans. That would be really good too. You could even grill your green beans along with the tofu, and that would be just delicious. But this is just a really simple recipe. So play with your food, make it your own, and add other things that you might think. What other things can you think of that you would add? Maybe some red pepper. That could be really good. So, okay, we are going to go to Q&A, but before we do, remember when you ask a question during Q&A, you'll be entered in a drawing. And today we have a couple of different things we're giving away. One is a subscription to Veg News Magazine, and one is, I think I saw that it was some kind of dried eggplant, which I've never used before. So I can't wait to hear more about that. Tell me more about that, Dilip. That's very interesting.
Great demo. Yeah, so we're giving away, and by the way, it's just Carolyn and me for Q&A. So we're giving away, there's a brand called McCabe, and I've had in the past, they sell frozen McCabe eggplant slices that are breaded that have been really good. I haven't bought them in a long time, but I used to buy
I have never seen that before.
Yeah, those are our two giveaways, and a lot of good questions came in, but we're going to take questions from this point forward. I have a set of questions as well, and I'm sorry, just the two of us, but that's okay. First of all, I wanted to thank you, Carolyn. That was an excellent demo, and it looked great. I have no experience grilling, or almost no experience grilling, and what you did, actually, that's one of my questions for you.
Okay.
Question is, since I'm not a griller, should I get a pan like that, and what are the benefits of a pan like that?
The benefits are that it makes it really fast and easy to have something that looks grilled, like it is grilled. It's a grill pan, but you can grill even when it's like freezing cold and raining outside. So you don't have to go outside and heat up your grill. You can just use a grill pan. And one of my favorite things besides this dish is to do tofu steaks on it. It's fantastic. You can marinate it in something just like this marinade and then grill your tofu steaks, and they're going to get those nice grill marks on it, and just makes a really pretty presentation to have the grill marks on things.
We used to have a restaurant in Raleigh back when I moved here in the 90s called Rathskeller, and I used to travel. Raleigh is about a 25-minute drive or so. I used to drive there to get their grilled tofu with asparagus. It was delicious. It was so good.
Whoa. Well, so you could do that with a grill pan like this. You can just grill it right in your kitchen.
It's available nonstick?
Yes, and it's also, this one is like so it's Calphalon, and it's like solid all the way through. So I'm not sure. It doesn't, I've never seen it scratch up I mean, it looks perfectly brand new like it did the day I bought it. So, and I use it all the time, but I don't use metal things on it just in case.
Yeah.
But
Before I learned more about years and years ago, my favorite pan was Calphalon, and I had like nonstick Calphalon, and I stopped using that because the Calphalon I had, I think, had Teflon on it. So
I
I
don't
don't know,
think
but
this does. I'm
okay,
pretty sure this does not because I wouldn't have bought
okay,
it if it
okay.
had Teflon. So yeah.
Well, I have more questions, but there are other people asking questions too. So Janet Doe has a good question, and would you mind keeping track of the people asking questions?
Oh,
So
let me see if I
first,
can find a
if,
pen and a piece of
would you rather
paper.
me? I can do it. Don't worry, I'll do it. I'll do it. Okay, so person one is Janet Doe.
Okay.
So Janet asks, if you have a hard time finding eggplant, what would be a good substitute? Well, first of all, eggplant should be really easy to find. And Carolyn pushed back. We were talking about doing eggplant earlier, and she found certain seasons she couldn't get it. I find in my local markets eggplant's available year round, readily, plentifully. But let's say that you live someplace like Carolyn lives, where you can't find
Right.
eggplant.
Right.
So it depends on what you're making. I find a nice substitute, if I had to make a substitute, might be something like seitan. Seitan is chewy and has a roughly similar texture to eggplant. It has a more pronounced flavor. It's higher in
Mhm.
sodium, so be careful about that. But that might be one option. Another option might be a zucchini. And
Mhm.
zucchini,
Zucchini.
kind of looks like eggplant. It doesn't have the same flavor profile, but that might be something you can use to substitute. Can you think of anything else, Carolyn?
Absolutely. Well, the thing about eggplant, I mean, for me, finding it here, I can find it, but I don't think it tastes very good because it's been shipped in trucks for like weeks from somewhere else. And so I'm kind of an eggplant snob, I guess. I had to put it that way, but I grow it in my backyard all summer long. And so I love good, fresh eggplant. And to me, when I find it at the grocery store in the middle of the winter, it's more, it just doesn't have the right flavor and the texture's all off to me because it's been sitting in a truck for quite a while. So I just really like fresh eggplant. So, it's hard to find good fresh eggplant when it's not in season. I guess I really like eating in season. I like eating things that are growing right now in my area, which I know is very, I guess, ethnocentric to say, or North American centric or whatever. But I'm aware of what's growing in North America right now. And I know that that's the opposite of what people in Australia might be growing right now. But, I like things that are totally in season because I think it gives us more nutritional value. So
Speaking of Australia, something totally irrelevant, but I teach a lot of math classes, and I teach some remote classes for Stanford University. And I just got my new roster. I have a student from Australia this time.
oh, cool.
And a
That's
student
good
from
news.
India, and a student from, I think, Malaysia, and a student from the Middle East. I have lots of first and second graders.
You'll have to ask them what's in season right now in their backyards. What-
Yeah.
what's growing there? Because yeah, eggplant's not growing here yet. So, I was able to find it, but I think it's been in a truck for a while getting here, but it still tastes pretty good when you grill it. So
Whole food plant-based eater. So you have a great question, and I'll take it and see if Carolyn wants to add to it. So at WFPB eater, what do you look for in a good ripe eggplant? And does eggplant freeze well? Eggplant does freeze well, but the trick with freezing it is don't freeze it. First of all, don't freeze it whole because then it'll be forever to defrost, and don't even freeze it chopped because then it gets mushy, and when it defrosts, it gets really too wet. So what you want to do, and we can talk in a minute about salting eggplant, which I don't do, but traditionally people did do. But what I would do is I would cook your eggplant. I'd make the dish and then freeze that, and so you could do that. I find, and let's see if Carolyn disagrees, that eggplant, sure, it freezes, but you lose a little bit of the flavor. Certain things do better, after having been frozen. Tofu, for example. But
mhm.
yeah, you can freeze the tofu dish, the eggplant dish. You make a bunch of eggplant and you freeze some of it, and then you eat more of it. If you can refrigerate it for 2 or 3 days, often it'll taste better because it will marinate in the tomato. And that's what I would do. So if I make a big batch of an eggplant, like my dish, the eggplant tofu dish, and then I refrigerate it and eat more 2, 3, 4 days later, it'll probably taste better because it'll marinate. If I freeze it, it's fine. And I've done it actually, that very dish I've frozen. Um, it doesn't add to the flavor. And after a while, it actually detracts from the flavor. So the answer is yes, but it's not perhaps the best thing to freeze. And that
Right.
has a question. Oh, do you want to add to that, Carolyn?
Well, I think it actually also changes the texture a little bit after you freeze it. So I would definitely cook it first and fix it in
Definitely.
the dish and then freeze maybe individual servings of it. But trying to freeze raw eggplant
is going to change the texture of it,
Right.
which that's good when it comes to tofu. It's not necessarily good when it comes to eggplant. So.
Patricia, I hope you get a chance to watch the show again. There's been great recipes. Annette has a question. I'm going to write Annette as our third questioner. So we have Janet Doe, whole food plant-based eater, and now Annette, Annette. Annette, I wonder if you're new, and if so, welcome. And if you're not new, then welcome back to another episode. How do you know if some seeds should be removed from the eggplant? Carolyn probably knows more about this than I do. What I would say to that is don't worry about the seeds. They're so small, and you don't really taste them. You taste a tiny bit of texture in your tongue, which is actually enhancing, I think, to the dish, to many dishes you'd make. So I wouldn't worry about removing seeds. What do you think, Carolyn?
I don't really ever worry about removing seeds, but that's one of the reasons this kind of eggplant, the Japanese eggplant, is my favorite, because the seeds are so tiny that it's just really nothing to worry about. But I have, when I grow my own eggplant and they've been out there on the vine too long and I open it up, it can be very seedy, and sometimes those seeds can get really big. And so, if you've ever grown it yourself and then found one accidentally under a leaf and lifted it up and said, oh my gosh, there's a huge eggplant here I must have missed for the past few weeks. Then when you cut it open, it may be a little too seedy. So you could scrape out those extra seeds with a spoon at that point. But because it can get seedy enough that it's hard to eat because there's so many seeds. And if you leave it on the vine too long, the seeds can get a little bit bitter.
And by the way, we didn't answer another part of WFPB Eater's question. What do you look for in a good ripe eggplant? So what you want to look for is you want to look at uniform color. Sometimes if eggplant has a depression, it's been pressed or something, then it'll be like whitish or whitish brown. And when you remove the skin, you'll find it's bruised, it's brown, and you want to avoid that. I generally cut those sections out. I try not to buy eggplant that has such pieces. I try to get it uniform. But you can buy it with those bruises and just cut them out. And even if you miss it, it tastes, I don't know how to describe it. It tastes more watery, or it's not terrible, but it's not great. So look for that. Look for where
Nice
the
and
stem,
firm.
nice and firm. Look for the stem end and make sure it still looks pretty fresh, so where the stem part isn't kind of wilting. If it's wilting, it's been picked a long time ago. So try to pick something that's as fresh and green as possible. I like, there's so many varieties of eggplant. I like the one I couldn't remember that has stripes. I think it's called fairy tale eggplant. I think Cody suggested. I think she's right. It's called fairy tale eggplant. So in terms of varieties, I don't find a great difference in flavor. I find that the Chinese and Japanese a little bit milder. That's not the reason I buy that's one of my favorite eggplants. The reason I buy those is because they cook faster and you have less chopping to do. And also the skin, I think, is slightly thinner. I might be wrong about that, but I found that I usually leave the skin on my Japanese and Chinese eggplants. Sometimes I leave the skin on. The recipe that I shared today, I suggested removing the skin. The problem with skin gives you additional nutrition, but skin, when you heat it, especially if you're roasting it, it holds on more and the flesh shrinks, and you get this weird thing where you get kind of a cup-shaped thing. And so if you're roasting or cooking for a long time, you probably want to remove the skin. If it's a quick cook, then you can get away with leaving the skin on. So that was really the question.
I always leave the skin on when I'm doing Japanese eggplant. So even actually, I was really torn between this and another dish called, I think it is, and John would correct me on this, but bistecche del porveri, which is like poor man's steak. So it's just really thick sliced Italian globe eggplant that you then grill just like this and make a sauce for it that has parsley and walnuts or pine nuts and balsamic vinegar and drizzled over the top. Really, really good. But you can leave the skin on for that too. So
Patricia Campana, good to see you, Patricia. And I'm sorry you ended up missing much of the show. I sure hope you'll get to watch the replay. It's been a very good show, and I'd like to try a lot of these recipes. So Patricia has a question, and I had the same question. Is it easy to grow eggplant? I don't have a lot of personal space outside. So Carolyn, you're an expert.
how do you grow eggplant outside? You can grow it in a pot if you want to. So depending on the kind of eggplant, but I find these Japanese or Ichiban eggplant easier to grow than other ones, but it needs a good sunny location. So it will need pretty much a full day of sun, regular watering, but not every single day. It makes really nice big leaves that kind of form a canopy over the plant. And then the eggplant grow up underneath the leaves, which is why I said it's kind of easy to miss sometimes. And you lift a leaf and it's like, oh, there's an eggplant. But it doesn't really grow. So it doesn't need a trellis. It doesn't need to grow on a vine. But if your plant gets pretty big, you may need to maybe put a stake in the ground and use some twine or something to tie up a portion of the plant to the stake so it doesn't completely fall over, especially when the eggplants start coming in and they're heavy and they can pull the plant over. So, and it needs just a good basic fertilizer, but maybe once, right after the seeds start coming up, regular water, lots of sun, and pretty much just then let it go because it should be fine. But, it does like warm weather for sure. It's not going to handle a freeze, but you can do it in a pot. Absolutely. I mean, a relatively big pot because the root ball gets to be, it sends down pretty big roots, but so you don't want to do a tiny little pot, but maybe a good 12 to 15 inch pot at least for one or two plants. So,
one thing I had meant to discuss in my segment and I forgot is eggplant actually originally comes from Asia and India in particular. I think other places besides India, and it's used a lot in Indian cooking. And in Hindi, we call it bagan, like bagan bertha. It's also called brinjal. I think the British call it brinjal. So the British saw that the Indians were using it, and then they started, adapting to it. There's actually a book I read many years ago about Indian food, and it talks about the roots of Indian food. And a lot of the foods that we consider Indian were actually introduced by the Portuguese, like hot peppers, for example. I think hot pepper was because pepper is originally, I think, a New World food. So I think hot pepper, which we think of as Indian, actually comes from the Portuguese. So that's interesting. I bet you there's some departments of study where they have specialists at the PhD level with food ethnography, where different foods come from.
Well, in most parts of Europe, they actually refer to eggplant. I was trying to remind myself of this. I looked it up, aubergine.
Aubergine.
So, aubergine. So you'll see that in recipes sometimes. So if you end up pulling up like a British recipe or even an Australian recipe, I think it's referred to as aubergine. So you'll see. So if you wonder when you're looking at a recipe and it says too ripe aubergine, like what the heck is that? It's eggplant.
So there was two more things I was going to say. One ththing my mom used to make when I was growing up is she'd make bagan bertha, which is an eggplant. It's like a dip. It's a little bit like baba ganoush, but not really. It's a little bit like that. Yeah. And what my mom would do is she'd close all the doors to all the bedrooms because she would literally put the eggplant on an open flame. So she didn't use gas. So she put it not on an open flame. She put it on an electric. And there was a question for you if you use gas, by the way, Carolyn.
No.
No. So I use gas. So my mom did not like gas. So she'd put like one of those cookie sheets and put it as close to the burner as possible. And she'd just keep turning the eggplant till it was like really cooked. And the whole house would smell of eggplant. And so she would try to close the door. So that's a memory I have. The other thing I wanted to say about eggplant is my brother is great at gardening in Connecticut. And it seems like whenever I visit him in Connecticut, he sends me home with a bunch of things for my suitcase. And I think when I was there in September, I came back with a couple of eggplants. And by then it was getting cold in Connecticut, and a lot of the plants were withering, but his eggplants looked great. And I remember his eggplant was really quite good. Sandy has a question, and James asked, white eggplant, I've never heard of that. I like white eggplant. It's expensive. We don't get it very often. But Sandy has a question, and I'm going to write Sandy's name down as number 5. So Sandy, you're the 5th person in the drawing. I had a friend that grew white eggplant. Can all varieties of eggplant be used interchangeably? Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty much.
Some have slightly different flavor profiles. Like, for example, Japanese and Chinese eggplants, they're very, very similar to each other. They're a little bit milder. But all the other eggplants, to me, really taste the same. The standard in America is the Italian eggplant. And it's actually, I like it, but I prefer the Japanese and Chinese because it's thinner. There's also baby eggplant you can get, which I like even more. And it seems to have a little bit more flavor because maybe it's not been diluted. It's not, grown bigger. I don't know why. But it's really, taste-wise, totally interchangeable. And if you buy white eggplant, if it's more expensive, why would you buy it? I don't know. If you see white eggplant and you're not using the skin, then it doesn't really matter.
Hardly matter.
There probably is a slight flavor difference, but I don't perceive it. And I don't buy enough white eggplant. I've bought it maybe a half dozen times to remember.
Right.
Francis has a question. can use electric instead of gas for roasting. Well, my mom did.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom had something against gas. She was scared of gas. And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, like when she moved to North Carolina, I was looking for a house for them, and I much prefer gas. I like gas. You turn it on, it's immediately on. You can set the level. I love gas, but she doesn't. And so many homes here had electric. I remember we were looking at, I think, one home that almost fit everything else, and we were talking about how much it would cost to change it from gas to electric.
Oh my.
So yeah, so you can grill with electric.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean,
Francis,
I just grilled this with it's an electric stovetop because I don't have gas, so it's electric, and that's just a grill pan on an electric. I'm going to renovate my kitchen hopefully in the next year or so, and I'm going to go with induction. So I'm hoping I can find a grill pan
nice.
that works on induction, but we'll see. We'll see.
The next question comes in from Alka Bhutan. I'm going to write you down as the seventh questioner, Alka Bhutan. And that's what kind of grill pan is good to use? So Carolyn.
Well, this one's a Calphalon, but there's just a really wide variety. But you probably want to look for one that doesn't have Teflon on it, because we just don't want it flaking off into our food. It's just not a safe option. But anything that is, non-Teflon probably should be fine. I mean, you get what you pay for, so you probably want to go with, one of the nicer brands like Calphalon. Honestly, in the summertime, I just put it on my grill outside. So I would prefer making this on the grill outside, but it works inside on my grill pan too.
So we have 7 folks who've asked questions so far. You know what I'm thinking? That's a good number. We'll take a couple more questions, but there's enough that I think we'll give away not 2, but 3 things. I think we'll give away 2 of the, and I'm thinking of getting it for myself, 2 of the air fried, not air fried, it's the dehydrated eggplant. So
I got to try that. That's amazing. I've never heard of that.
Karen
How would
Osborne found that.
I
And
want to know how you use it? What do you do with it?
snack, and it's no
Oh, you mean
fat.
just like eat it? You just okay, so you don't rehydrate it and use it in something? You
No,
just
and so
eat
she
it.
found it, and it's organic. It's no
Uh-huh.
ingredients other than eggplant. There's no oil or anything. It just it's dehydrated eggplant. I bet it's good, and
That's
because it's dehydrated,
amazing.
it probably has a more intense flavor. So Alka is in
Yes.
for that as well.
Wow.
So
Okay.
let's see if anybody else has any questions. I'm going to ask a question or two myself. So not really a question. We couldn't have an eggplant show and not talk about salting eggplant because that's traditionally what's done. If we went back to
I
like
never
Betty
do it.
Crocker, I never do it, but I wanted to talk about it. So some
Well,
people feel that eggplant has a bitter flavor, and what some people do is they dice it and then they salt it heavily and then they put it on a colander, and then I
mhm.
think that you put a little bit of moisture or wet paper towel or something like that, or wet towel, and then you
Yeah.
wash the salt off. I don't do that for a couple of reasons. I love the flavor of eggplant. I don't taste the bitterness.
Right.
And the thing is, I want to avoid washing the inside of the eggplant because then
Right.
it gets absorbed into the eggplant. I'd rather dry it.
Right.
So I've also heard about people who would salt it and then just towel,
Right.
wipe off the salt.
Extra
So
salt. Yeah.
I wanted to mention that because if you look at any cookbook, I think probably from Betty Crocker or anything from the 50s
Right.
and 70s, they're going to talk about doing
The
that probably
joy of
today too.
cooking. Yeah.
Yeah,
It all says that. You're right. And I used to do it long time ago. I salted eggplant because recipes said to. And you know what? I have never noticed a difference in
I
the
haven't
flavor
either.
other than it was more salty. So I have never noticed a difference. It doesn't change the taste of the eggplant at all, as far as I'm concerned. And if you don't like eggplant, you're not going to like it salted or not. I mean, it's just the
Yeah,
same.
it won't make a
It tastes the
difference.
same. It's not
And
going to make a difference.
by the way, Patricia, thanks for that. I didn't know that. In Italian, it's called melanzane. I didn't know that.
Melanza. Okay.
Melanzane. Sandy
Oh, that's right.
has an interesting question, and I think Sandy is on my list already. So Sandy says, does the eggplant absorb much of the sodium then? Not really. If you're just sprinkling salt on top, it won't absorb it. And if you're trying to avoid salt, don't worry about that. So that if you did want to try the salt trick, you could, but I don't notice any difference in flavor. But I did
I
want to say the recipe I demonstrated, I love this recipe, and it was one of my classic recipes. For many years, I taught a class called Ethnic Vegetarian Cooking, and it was all vegan. But I wasn't a Food for Life instructor. I wasn't as aware about oil, and I used, oil in the class. And so one
Mhm.
thing I would advise my students is is, because we did use oil back then, is I'd say be careful because the eggplant's going to absorb the oil. It's a sponge. And so when we used to do this in
Mhm.
class, we needed a lot of oil. We'd cook and then more oil and more oil and more oil. You don't need any oil whatsoever, right? I made this dish with zero oil and it tasted just as good as I remember it years ago when I used oil. If you
Right.
are using oil, the eggplant really is not the best choice because it just sops up the oil and holds on to it. So be careful. If you're doing that with eggplant, be careful. Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Elka asks the question, do you buy dehydrated eggplant? I've never dehydrated eggplant. This is a product that we found, that Karen found, and so we're offering that as a giveaway. So we don't know.
I'm going to try dehydrate. I have a dehydrator. So I was just thinking, I bet I could actually dehydrate some of these marinated sticks of eggplant and see what happens. That would be very interesting. I may have to try it, get my dehydrator out.
And going back for a second, James had never heard of white eggplant. If anybody in the audience feels differently, I should do a little more research because white eggplant is more expensive, and generally people do remove the skin. I'm not sure why people buy white eggplant because it's
Uh,
more expensive. As I recall, it tastes the same. So
well,
maybe
and
maybe just
the purple is important because it has anthocyanins in it. Like
yeah.
that's one of the reasons to eat things that are colorful. So,
I
uh,
should chat with Brenda about this. I don't know, Brenda, if you're watching. So, oh, by the way, a shout out to Brenda Davis. She's awesome. Every month we've been doing this for almost, is it 5 years? I think it'll be 5 years in
5 years
2 months.
in May. 5 years in May.
Yeah, 5
Yep.
years, right. And
Wow.
so, it's possible some of our viewers are younger than the show. Raise your hand if you're not 5 years old, or if you're ask your parent to raise your hand. I'm used to working with I tutor a couple of 3-year-olds. So,
They're not
um,
even as old as the show. That's pretty
that's
funny.
right. So Brenda, hats off to you, Brenda, if you're watching. So Brenda sent me a comment yesterday. She said, "You guys have outdone yourself. This is a great show," and I agree. All the dishes have been so good. And so when you look at Brenda's appendix, she writes a lot of details. Brenda Davis is my favorite nutritionist. She's written so many books on nutrition. She actually, the recipes she makes for our show, and she photographs it. It's her photograph, her photography, and her dish, and then she eats it. So and she doesn't just make one, she often makes 2 or 3 dishes, and she makes it, from scratch. So thank you so much. We're so glad and lucky that we have Brenda. You guys have a wealth of data there, 5 years worth of every month, tons of recipes, and now you can search on them. If you come to our website, somanycooks.com, you can say, show me all eggplant recipes, or show me all recipes just by
Mhm.
Carolyn, or show me all recipes that don't have garlic or anything like that. So you can do things like that. Actually, you can't do
We
don't have
should
garlic.
publish them. We need to publish them.
Yeah, we should. We have far more than enough for a book.
Yes, we do.
Let me ask another question, and then I think we'll probably do the drawing. So, I wanted you, please, Carolyn, to talk a little bit
Mhm.
about soba noodles, because there's different kinds of Oriental noodles. Of course, noodles come from the Orient, come from China.
Right, right.
So there's soba, and there's also 2 or 3 other
Udon.
kinds. Udon. So
Udon.
how are they
Mhm.
different?
Well, soba, like I said, is the one that's made out of buckwheat. So buckwheat is the one of the main ingredients in most soba. So this one is soba and brown rice, but I mean buckwheat and brown rice. But there's other ones that are buckwheat and wheat flour. This one, because it's brown rice flour and buckwheat, that makes it gluten free. So buckwheat is not technically wheat. So and it doesn't have any gluten in it. So udon noodles, on the other hand, are usually made out of a wheat flour. So I think I've seen them in rice flour. There's pad thai noodles that can be like a brown rice flour, that kind of thing. But soba is good in this specific recipe just because of the marinade that's on it and how it plays nicely off of the flavor of the buckwheat. So, but if you
And
don't like the flavor of buckwheat, then go with udon noodles, and that would be
and
good too.
is that what you eat when you're trying to feel better about things? Try to feel a little soba?
And I did
But
wonder, does Shoba like soba? I don't know. We should ask Shoba if she likes soba.
little sobering comment there. I have to
Right.
tell you, Shoba, too bad she couldn't stick around. She's doing a big cooking thing, so she had to run. But
Mhm.
she's so nice. So my daughter, Anu, and I went down to Carolyn's for her daughter's
Mhm.
wedding not this past December, but the December before.
15 months ago, hard to believe. It's a while
And
ago.
Shoba, Atlanta is right on the way. And
Mm-hmm.
I asked Shoba, could we visit with you for a night? And she was so nice. She was not home, and she
Oh,
said, I'll leave the key for you." And we made ourselves. It was so wonderful. I mean, we missed her very much. She has the most amazing basement. It has a second kitchen, and it's even
wow.
bigger than the main kitchen. And she has this huge tower garden. I should ask her next time she joins us to maybe train the camera. It was right. It was like just footsteps away from where she was cooking. This huge tower garden,
Cool.
and it's the
Okay.
best kale I've had in my life. So she told us, enjoy whatever you want in the tower garden, and we did. We
Wow.
picked all these greens. It was really, really good.
I don't have a tower garden, but I have a winter garden with kale in it right now and
Well, you
collard
live in
greens.
Alabama. It's pretty warm
Yeah,
there. Yeah.
exactly. So I have
And
Brussels
Annette,
sprouts too.
and you do. Annette, your name was really familiar, and I thought you were probably not a new person to the show. We're really glad to see you. Okay, let's do the drawing. What I'm thinking of, so I have in the drawing, I have Janet, whole food plant-based eater, Annette, Patricia, Sandy, Francis, and Elka Bhutan. I think we'll give 3 gifts. The first 2 will be the eggplant, the dehydrated eggplant, and I'll let Karen know. Let me go ahead and write here. So if you win, please acknowledge here, and then email to Karen at somanycooks.com and Dilip at somanycooks.com. So please email to us because we need your mailing address, and we don't want you to share your mailing address here online. That's not a good idea. But you can send it, please, to Karen and me, and then Karen will make sure that you get your gifts. By the way, I just wanted to give a quick update. I don't like to reveal personal information, but she herself shared a couple shows ago, she had a hiking accident, and she's still recovering from
Mhm.
uh, from that, and she's not able to cook very well, so she's anxious to come back on the show, and things are improving, so let's keep our fingers crossed because she knows so much about food. She joined us in a Q&A recently, and I'm hoping that she can be back on the show. I really miss her. It's been too
Mhm.
long, so we really want her back. So that's Karen. So Karen will fulfill the gift, so please email to us. Oh, I need to show that on screen. So yeah, if you win, then we'll wait for you to say, yep, I'm here, and then you'll need to send an email to both Karen, send it to Karen and copy me, okay? So let me do the drawing. I have a random number generator. So the first one is going to be for the dehydrated eggplant. I'm going to use random.org. If you're interested to know what I'm doing, I'm going to say, please generate a random number from 1 to 7. And the dehydrated eggplant goes to number 5, which is Sandy. Let me just write this down. So Sandy, congratulations. You win the dehydrated eggplant. And tell you what I'll do is while we're waiting for Sandy to acknowledge, I'm going to do the second eggplant winner, and we'll wait for both of you to acknowledge that you are here. So the second winner for the eggplant, dehydrated eggplant, is number 7, which is Alka. So Alka and Sandy, please acknowledge that you're here and that you'll email us with. Okay, Sandy says yes. Let me type it here so I won't forget. So congratulations to Sandy Stenzel Miller and Alka Buttan for winning the dehydrated eggplant. Yep, I see both Alka and Sandy have acknowledged. So Sandy and Alka, please send an email to Karen at somanycooks.com and copy Dilip, D-I-L-I-P, at somanycooks.com. Let's do the final drawing. The final drawing is for Veg News Magazine. Is it Veg News this time, or is it
I think
VRT Journal?
it's veg news.
Veg
That's
News.
yeah, that's what we
Veg,
said on the page. So
yeah, Veg News is a very nice magazine. It's slick.
mhm.
We love it. I know the publisher. She's really, really nice.
Mhm.
Now, remember, Veg News is all about veganism, and sometimes it talks about whole food plant-based, but it's about the world of veganism. And so some of the recipes may be higher in fat than what we suggest, but it's a great magazine and gives you all sorts of resources, places to eat out, and the net that spread is about veganism, and there's not so much discussion of whether it's high fat or not. Just a word about that. When we eat out, I'm actually in about an hour doing some tutoring, and we're meeting at a vegan restaurant called Coco. I'll probably only have some hot chocolate, but they have lots of good dishes. I highly recommend Coco if you're in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. It's all vegan, and I don't drink alcohol. They actually make fake alcoholic drinks that have the flavor of I don't know these drinks, scotch, whiskey, things like that. So they have a a bar that makes drinks like that, things like that are non-alcoholic. But anyhow, when we eat out, it's not always easy to find low-fat, whole food, plant-based dishes. And what I suggest is that when you eat out, just ask when you order your food, can you minimize how much oil you use? And if they can't, what we're suggesting is watching your fat, but we're watching it on an average. If you go out once in a while, I love going out. I know Carolyn, you do too. Cody, I notice we all do. So it's, you have to talk to your healthcare provider, but I would say it's probably okay to have some higher fat foods when you're eating out. Last week, it had been a long, long time, but I went out for ice cream. We have an ice cream place downtown, and they have a lot of vegan choices. And I had an ice cream, and it was great. It was really good. If I ate that every day or every week, that would be wrong. But if I go out to this wonderful place called the Parlor 5 times a year, 7 times a year, who cares? I mean, enjoy it. All right, so let's do the drawing for the magazine Veg News, and the winner of that is from 1 to 7. It is 6. So the winner of the magazine 6 is Francis. So Francis, can you acknowledge that you are here? And I'll put a comment here. So congratulations to Francis. What's Francis's last name? Riley. Francis Riley, for winning the Veg News subscription. So Francis, please acknowledge that you're here. We'll give you a moment. And if for some reason Francis is not here, we'll draw again. Great magazine subscription. Oh, good. Francis is here. Yay. So Francis, please promise to email. Please email to dilip@somanycooks.com. Copy me, but send it to Karen@somanycooks.com. Yeah, I join Annette in congratulating everybody. And I'm looking, I haven't gotten any emails yet, but presumably you will send emails soon. You're welcome, Whole Food Plant-Based Eater. Yeah, I'm really pleased with this show. I have to tell you that all the shows recently, I think our shows are always good, but the show with cheese, I want to make that macaroni and cheese sometime. And I'm so jealous that I was supposed to be with you, Carolyn, and with
I
Cody.
know.
And
Sorry.
so circumstances piled up that I just actually wasn't able to go, but I was supposed to be presenting a cheese recipe too. And I'm really proud of that show. This was an all, of course, vegan whole food plant-based. There was 1 or 2 recipes that had some oil, but we had minimal oil. That was a really good show. So if you haven't got a chance to see it, do watch the show on replay, or at least download the recipes. And you can find all that at somanycooks.com.
It was a good one.
It was a good one. It was very good. And of course, you guys were on that beautiful ship, so you looked glamorous. You guys are already so beautiful, and now you look super glamorous. It's like, wow.
Cooked in a beautiful kitchen. It was fantastic.
Well, I did the previous year, and it was awesome.
I know. I remember.
I don't think you cooked the previous year, but I did, and it was great.
I did not. I did not get to.
And now I was really looking forward to cooking with you.
No. It was fun. Cody and I had a good time.
I'm sure you did. So, and I do want to invite folks on cruises. Cruises are great. Ours isn't the only one. There's the Holistic Holiday at Sea, which I think is coming up. And I've been on that like 3 times. I presented once.
I think it was just a few weeks ago. I think it's already happened.
Has it passed? Okay.
Pretty
And then, yeah, and Janet, I'm coming to that in just a second. I'm glad you asked. And then there's our cruise, and there's various cruises in Europe. I don't know if you know this, Carolyn, but way before I was involved with any of these cruises, a local travel agent wanted me to be on these really small cruises, and we were starting to put together just before the pandemic, actually, put together 2 cruises a year, one in the Mediterranean, one in the Caribbean, and so maybe that'll still happen. So a vegan cruise is a great way to go because you get to spend a lot of time and soak up. If there's lectures, which the shows ones we go to do have lectures, and then get to eat good food. So I do recommend that. A vegan cruise, really nice. I've been thinking, since many of you guys know I teach math also, I've been thinking of doing a math cruise. And if I did a math cruise, obviously the food portion of it would all be vegan. And we would have like a room with just math documentaries do some fun math for kids and all that kind of thing.
It sounds like a very niche crowd, a vegan math cruise.
You'd be surprised how many of my families have said they'd want to do that. They want to come. I've
Funny.
mentioned it to every single family I've mentioned to said we'll be there. So
Okay.
yeah, I love working with children in math. So Janet asked the question I was coming to next. What's our next show? The next show was just decided a few days ago, and it's called So Much Kale. So kale is such a
Yeah.
healthy food. A Whole Foods market has a metric they call the ANDI, the Aggregate Nutrient
Mhm.
Density Index, and they have a scale of 1,000. And unless they changed it, kale was 1,000 on 1,000. High
Right.
fiber. It has it's great in vitamin C, vitamin K. Uh,
Vitamin A. Yep.
yeah, okay, it's a
Lots
very
of
good
good stuff.
food. So I'm
Hmm.
thinking of making. I've made, I think, massaged kale salad in the past, maybe in our So Many Greens
Hmm.
show, but the kale I think would go really well with radish, and I'm thinking of doing something maybe with kale and radish, but I have to figure that out. Um, and then we don't have. Do you know what you're going to do for the kale show, Carolyn?
I was thinking my kale chips, but I think I did that for the greens show a few years ago too. So I don't know. I don't know. I'll come up with something. I'm not sure. I think it's April 12th or something, isn't it? So
I
I got
think
a
so.
couple weeks.
And see, you guys should, if you have any friends who are doubters, they say, well, veganism, there's so few choices. We've been doing this for 5 years, and we have typically what, 4, 5, 6 recipes a show
At
times,
least.
yeah.
Yeah.
So let's just say it's 5 times 12, so 60 recipes a year. So we must have 300, 400 recipes.
Oh yeah,
I
absolutely.
and I
Yeah.
always brag about this. I've known my wife for more than 20, 22 years, and I've never repeated dinner for her. So, there's such a variety in plant-based eating. There's such a huge variety. It's easy
Right.
to do that. Yep, Sandy, we all love kale. It's so good for you. We don't
Yeah.
know what we're doing after that. So Brenda has given me some suggestions. You know what Brenda told me? I don't know if I mentioned this to you, Carolyn. She said we've done our very first show was called So Many Beans, and Brenda said there's so many cool things about specific kinds of beans. She said, Dilip, why don't you do a show just on black beans? Why don't you do a
Oh,
show just on white beans? Why don't you do a show just on French lentils? And so I have to
wow.
chat with the
Okay.
team, including you, Carolyn, but that's something we
Mhm.
might do. But we love ideas. So please email to any of us if you have ideas. Nuts and
Okay.
seeds, maybe something about sunflowers. Nuts and seeds are healthy, they're high in fat, so we have to be careful about not using many of them.
Black
Um,
beans. That would be good. I like
would that
black
be good?
beans.
Just black beans, yeah. Because black
Yeah.
beans taste really different from, say, navy beans, or different from white
Pinto
beans.
beans.
Pinto
Yeah.
beans, yeah, they're harder,
Right.
they're firmer, right? And they're
Yep. Yep.
more atomic. So, yeah, let
Okay.
us know if you have any ideas, because we've done so many topics. We've done many of the obvious ones, but let's pick some other specific ingredients. We've done so much squash. I think we did so. Now we've done so much eggplant. Um, we've never done so many bananas, and banana is one of those foods that can be savory or sweet. I love grilling banana. It brings out,
Hmm.
it caramelizes the flavors.
You grill? You grill them? I didn't know
Well,
you grilled
I don't
anything.
grill. I put it on a saute pan, but
Okay.
yeah, I put it on a
Yeah, I
saute
like
pan.
roasting them. They're really good.
Yeah, so maybe
Yep.
we should do a show and we can broaden it.
Oops,
Bananas
sorry.
and plantains. They're not
Okay.
that closely related, but they look
No,
similar, right?
they do look similar. And you
But
can sort of, yeah, I know a few families who use them interchangeably, Caribbean families. If they can't find
really,
plantain, they'll put chopped up banana on their bean dishes because
but you can't eat raw plantain, I don't think.
no,
No,
no.
but you can cook banana and you can eat banana raw, you should cook plantain. I don't think you can
Right.
eat plantain raw.
I don't
I
think
think
so. I
well,
don't
I've
know.
taken bites of it. It's fine. It has kind of astringent feel to it,
Mhm,
but you
mhm.
can. Oh, Francis likes the idea of bananas. Yeah, we could do bananas Foster. We can do banana ice cream.
Mhm.
Maybe we should do a banana show because bananas are universally seem to be universally available.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
So, would you like to wrap up with any final thoughts, Carolyn?
I don't think I can think of anything. We have our next show April 12th. Is that right?
Something
Um,
like that.
Kale, I'm going to see what I can come up with. I have to just go to my computer and search all the recipes I've ever come up with kale, and there's probably hundreds. So I have to find something. My favorite is my kale chips. I think I already did that, so I'll come up with something else. But
Yeah,
yeah,
different flavors of ice cream or ice cream. Ice cream is so easy. All you do is you freeze some fruit. It works great with mango, works great with strawberry, works okay with blueberry, Works pretty well with water. This is, I should grab some and show it on camera. This is triple cross season.
Oh,
And I go
no, you're
crazy
so
for triple
lucky.
cross. It's the best. Its tangerines
It's
are great.
not triple cross in my neighborhood though. We don't have. I have to buy sumo. I've got some sumos over there. That's
Oh,
the
that's
closest I can get.
sacrilegious. There's no
That's the
flavor in
that's
sumo.
the closest. Well, they taste pretty good compared to everything else I can get. That's the only thing I can get. So
Yeah, I don't like sumos very much. So I've made triple cross ice cream. So ice cream can be made with lots of different things, and we could try a show just on ice cream. That might be a really good idea, especially as we hit like June or something like that. That might be really
yeah.
nice. All right. Any final comments? I should turn on our names. I forgot to do that.
Uh-oh. Who are we again?
Yeah, did I turn
We
it
don't have
on?
names.
Let's see. Can you
Oh
see
no,
it?
I don't see it.
Yeah, there we go. There's our names. Okay, good.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, let me see if I can see if there's any. Oops. Excuse me just a second. Carolyn, I'm going to fiddle for a second. Would you like to say something while I'm trying to find our outro? Oh, here I found it. Okay. So thanks for watching. We look forward to seeing you in the next show. And again, send your ideas our way. And it's so easy eating plant-based. And so we didn't really talk about why. You guys all know it. It's probably the best thing you can do for your bodies.
Yep. And the planet.
And the planet and the animals.
Clearly.
So it's there's a lot of evidence. This is by far the best thing you can do for the planet is to be vegan, and whole food plant-based is probably the best thing you can do for yourself. There's so much evidence. Don't trust us, but check out Michael Greger, nutritionfacts.org. Go to PubMed and you'll find tons and tons of data that says this is the best way to eat. And you can find data on other diets too, with almost no evidence or much less evidence.
And PCRM.org,
where
lots of
we
information.
teach classes. Yep. Yeah. So, and whole food plant-based eater makes an ice cream nightly. That's the cool thing. If you make ice cream like this, you can eat it all the time. There's no downside. When I make ice cream, I add almost no sweetener. The way I make it is I take frozen mango, frozen strawberry, I put it in my Vitamix or a heavy-duty blender, and I put a little bit of a vegan creamer, which has a little bit of sweetener in it. But if I want it non-sweetened, I just put plant milk and maybe a couple dates, and that's really good. Or no dates at all. The dates are great, and then you get a reasonably sweet ice cream, and you can really not rate limit yourself. Wouldn't you agree, Carolyn? If you're eating ice cream like that, eat as much as you want.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't go crazy over it just because, I mean, I don't know. You can still gain weight eating plant-based food if you eat too much, but you know.
But in this case, I don't think you can gain weight on eating the kinds of ice creams we make because there's no added fat. It's just the fruit.
Right,
So
right.
I think you can go to town with plant. But the thing is, how much of it can you eat? I mean, I make some luscious, delicious ice cream, and
is too full. I can't.
a bowl of it, maybe 2 bowls is more than enough.
Yeah.
A scoop. I meant a scoop, maybe 2 scoops, right?
Right.
2 small scoops, something like that. So
I don't think I can eat more than a bowl, but I get too full.
So when I serve it, I serve 1 or 2 scoops per my family member, and
exactly.
we seem to be able to get through that. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks for sticking with us, and we love doing this show, and we look forward to doing the next show. So we'll see you for So Much Kale. But for now, I want to run the outro and remind you that you can see the recipes at tinyurl.com/so-much-eggplant recipes, and the M is capitalized, the E is capitalized, and the R is capitalized.
And I think the link for that is on the page too, on the Facebook page. Yeah,
it is. And those of you who joined us at the very beginning, we had some technical difficulties at the very beginning, and I'm sorry. And also when Janin, she's kind of far away when she was broadcasting. And I think even with Susanna, there was some, at least on my end, there was some.
I heard it too. Yeah, was.
There was some feedback or their mouse didn't match what they're saying. There was some internet transmission problems. So we do the best we can. I think it comes out pretty well. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.
So many cooks in the kitchen, so many recipes to share. So many cooks in the kitchen with meals for you to prepare. We've got fruits and grains, veggies and beans, more healthy food than you've ever seen. So many cooks in the kitchen, plant-based meals to prepare. So many cooks in the kitchen, with ideas we're happy to share.